Hey everybody, and today I am going to be talking about Dan Simmons' follow-up to his award-winning novel Hyperion, which is the Fall of Hyperion. If you watched my previous review on Hyperion, you'll know that in that original book, Dan Simmons used the format of using a number of stories all linked together under the umbrella of this pilgrimage to Hyperion. In the Fall of Hyperion, Dan Simmons once again changes things up and tells the story in a different manner. The way that The Fall of Hyperion is structured is that the whole novel is the first person accounts of events happening directly to a John Keats hybrid. This is the second version, the first one having been killed in Hyperion. Spoilers, sorry. Um, and then the other parts are his dreams about the pilgrims and what's happening to them on Hyperion. And while the events happening to him are all told in first person, he uses, Dan Simmons that is, uses third person active voice for the pilgrims on Hyperion. So it's really cool because it's a different style. First person narrative, obviously very different from third person, but even the third person narrative, I mean, he's using this more active tense. So instead of this person saw this person woke up, it's this person sees this happening, this person wakens to, like, it just makes it a little bit more active and a little bit seeming more immediate. So once again, we have a different bit of a style usage in the Fall of Hyperion, which I thought was kind of cool. And also the Fall of Hyperion finally gives us some insight into what exactly is happening. Why are the ousters coming to attack? What happens to the pilgrims on Hyperion? We get a little bit of a clue as to what the Shrike is, but once again, that's not totally answered, although I know there's two more books in this series, so I'll have to read those ones. I actually found the Fall of Hyperion really engaging. Uh, Unlike Hyperion, where because you had these different vignettes, so there was constant sort of closure as you went along. The Fall of Hyperion is one big, long, strung out story where you're having different things happen at different times, and because there's the things happening to the John Keats hybrid, and because there are things that are happening to the pilgrims, we get different points of view. We follow different characters. Uh, there's breaks in those character stories while we shift to a different character and so forth. It really helped drive the book along. And I've read a little bit of people's commentaries on the Fall of Hyperion. Some people feel it's a little bit bloated. Other people found that the way that the story is formatted in terms of it being the experiences or dreams of the John Keats hybrid was a little bit dicey at times, which even I found a little bit. But overall, I thought the book was really well done. Uh, totally delivers on what we had set up in Hyperion. Gives us a lot more insight into the world, broadens the world significantly, and really does set us up for the following two books, Endymion and The Rise of Endymion. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to checking those books out as well. Although I'm going to take a bit of a break from Dan Simmons and switch over to something completely different. The Fall of Hyperion actually gives us some very interesting philosophical arguments in terms of the nature of God. Can a God be created? What happens once you create that God? We're presented with a lot of the ideas of what happens when artificial intelligence move beyond us. What happens when we create something that thinks in a faster, better way than we ourselves do? In a lot of ways, The Fall of Hyperion is more of a sci-fi story than even Hyperion was in the first place. Hyperion, I felt in a lot of ways, was just a fantasy story with some sci-fi trappings. Whereas The Fall of Hyperion, I feel, is a lot more of a science fiction story because it deals a lot more with the idea of technology. It deals far more with what happens to human society as we create technology that makes our lives easier and simpler. what happens when that starts to fall apart. So there's far more philosophical discussions in the Fall of Hyperion than I found in Hyperion. And I actually really thought that the book and the world benefited from that. So the Fall of Hyperion does give us a lot of answers, does provide us with the fate of the pilgrims that went to Hyperion in the first book, and gives us a lot more of an insight into the future of this human society and what's going to happen to it. I look forward to reading Endymion and seeing where that goes and where the world is taken and where humans end up from this point. The Fall of Hyperion really does feel like an advancement from what we had in Hyperion. And I did enjoy that there was a stylistic difference to it. At first it felt a bit shocking because I'm so used to writers continuing a series in the same style, in the same voice. So it was actually really refreshing to have something very different. And I actually found that most of the components were fairly well balanced and kept me interested as a reader. Often when you have novels that seem to split into varying viewpoints and varying storylines, I always find that at least one of them suffers. Now, the John Keats, we could argue that it's a little bit bloated, that there's maybe a little bit more there than needed to be. But at the same time, I did find a lot of it really interesting, and it did hold my attention, and it did introduce a lot of the philosophical arguments and ideas and so forth. So I really did enjoy this book. I thought it was a great sequel to an already amazing first book in Hyperion, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the two following books figure that out. So guys, the next book that I'll be discussing on my next video will be The Magician King by Lev Grossman, which is his sequel to the novel The Magicians, which I really enjoyed and read, but I never reviewed on here. Maybe I'll talk about it. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you're having a great time, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.